was born from fear, a primal, existential dread that seeped into the very foundations of a nation. A fear that gripped the world. In the heart of the Cold War, the sky was no longer a sanctuary of boundless blue. It was a hunting ground, a grand, terrifying chessboard suspended above the earth. A shadow stretched across continents. A whisper of impending doom carried on the Arctic wind. Soviet bombers. The Tupolev Tu-95. Die Bear. A four-engine monster, its counter-rotating propellers slicing the air with a menacing, guttural drone that could be heard from miles away. Each one was a harbinger of atomic fire, a flying fortress capable of erasing cities from existence. Each one was a dagger aimed at the heart of America. Paranoia was the air they breathed in Washington, in schoolyards, in suburban homes. Air raid sirens wailed in practice drills, sending children scrambling under their desks in a futile exercise of duck and cover. The bomber gap, they called it, a perceived chasm between their own aerial strength and the enemy's burgeoning fleet. It was a vulnerability that haunted the dreams of generals and fueled the frantic pace of the arms race. America needed a response, not an equal. An equal was a stalemate. It needed a definitive, crushing superior. It needed a guardian angel forged in the hottest fires of technology, a specter that could cross oceans in the time it takes to watch a motion picture. They needed more than a weapon. They dreamed of a god made of steel, titanium, and the limitless audacity of human ambition. They dreamed of a machine that could outrun the sun itself, a machine that would fly at the very edge of space, where the sky bruised into a deep, star-flecked purple and the world below was a silent, curving panorama. 3 times the speed of sound. Mach 3. So fast that the very air it violated would glow with incandescent fury around its fuselage, a self-generated halo of fire. Untouchable, unstoppable, an angel of destruction, painted in a ghostly, sterile white that would make it nearly invisible against the high-altitude clouds. A machine so advanced, so audacious, it bordered on science fiction. They would call it the Valkyrie. Designation, XB-70. This is the story of the most expensive, most advanced aircraft ever conceived. The story of a billion-dollar dream, a technological titan that represented the pinnacle of human achievement. This is the story of the perfect weapon that never fought a single war. It all began with an impossible demand, a challenge laid down by the Air Force's Strategic Air Command, a set of requirements so extreme they seemed to mock the very laws of physics. The program was designated Weapon System 110A. Its goal was simple in its terrifying clarity, yet monumental in its scope: penetrate the deepest, most heavily defended heart of Soviet territory, a land bristling with radar installations and fighter bases, fly thousands of miles at sustained supersonic speeds, a feat no other aircraft could even dream of, deliver a thermonuclear payload with chilling, unerring precision. And then, the most critical part, the part that separated it from a mere missile, escape, vanish back into the stratosphere, leaving behind nothing but a fading sonic boom and utter devastation, before the enemy's command structure even knew they were under attack. To accomplish this, it couldn't just be an evolution of what came before. It couldn't be a faster version of the B-52 Stratofortress. It had to be a revolution, a complete reinvention of what it meant to fly, to move, to exist in the sky. Engineers at North American Aviation, the same legendary minds that gave the world the P-51 Mustang and the F-86 Sabre, took on the challenge. They tore up the rulebook of aircraft design, a document written over decades of trial and error. They threw away convention. They sculpted a fuselage like a giant, metallic cobra, poised to strike. Over 185 feet long, it was slender, elegant, and impossibly futuristic. It was a dart designed to pierce the thickest wall of air with minimal resistance. 6 powerful General Electric YJ93 GE3 turbojet engines were housed in a massive rectangular box slung beneath the fuselage like a contained apocalypse. A beast of pure thrust waiting to be unleashed. Combined, they could generate over 170,000 pounds of force with their afterburners lit, a raw power that could be felt for miles, enough to push a skyscraper through the sky. But speed creates heat, a hellish, invisible fire. At Mach 3, aerodynamic friction would cook any conventional aircraft. Aluminum would turn to liquid, its structural integrity gone in seconds. So, the engineers looked to new materials, new techniques. Its skin was not aluminum. It was a brazed honeycomb of stainless steel, a complex and beautiful matrix that was painstakingly assembled. It was light, yet incredibly strong, designed to dissipate heat across its entire surface. The leading edges, the parts that would face the most intense punishment, were crafted from titanium, the only material that could endure the violent inferno of high-speed flight. And then, its most alien, most iconic feature, the element that truly set it apart. The wings. Vast, white, delta-shaped wings that spanned over 100 feet. At their tips, the final 12 feet could be hydraulically folded down in mid-flight, canting downwards up to 65 degrees. This was not for storage. This was a stroke of pure aerodynamic genius. This allowed the Valkyrie to ride its own shockwave, a technique known as compression lift. As the plane screamed through the air, it created a massive pressure wave beneath it, a cushion of energized air. By folding the wingtips down, it trapped that wave. It contained it. The Valkyrie was literally surfing on the very air it tore apart. It turned the brutal physics of supersonic flight, a force that shredded lesser machines, into its greatest ally. This wasn't just a plane. This was a phantom from the future, delivered to the present, a 600,000-pound titan of technology, a machine of terrible, breathtaking beauty, designed for one singular, chilling purpose: to dominate the sky so completely that no enemy would ever dare challenge it. If this story of impossible engineering has captured your imagination, subscribe and hit the like button. You will not want to miss what comes next on this epic journey. The first flight was a national event, a moment of profound technological pride. September 21st, 1964. The California sun baked the Mojave Desert, creating shimmering heat hazes on the runway at Palmdale. The world's press gathered, their cameras trained on the white giant as it was towed into position. At the controls, legendary test pilot Al White and his co-pilot, Colonel Joe Cotton. Inside the advanced cockpit, they were not merely pilots. They were technological priests, modern-day Argonauts, overseeing the birth of a new deity of the skies. The world watched as the white giant gracefully, almost silently at first, lifted off the runway. It was more than a test. It was a statement, a thunderous declaration of absolute power, a roar that echoed across the desert floor. In the flights that followed, the Valkyrie didn't just meet expectations. It shattered them. It broke records with an almost arrogant ease, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. October 14th, 1965, Air Vehicle 2, the second prototype, achieved what it was built for: Mach 3. 3 times the speed of sound, over 2,000 miles per hour. It climbed to 70,000 feet, an altitude where the curvature of the Earth was a visible, humbling arc against the blackness of space. It flew higher and faster than any bomber in history, higher even than the vaunted U-2 spy plane it was originally intended to support. This was a predator in its natural element, a creature of the high frontier. The crew who flew it were a new breed of aviator, titans of the jet age, riding a chariot of fire across the cold, thin air of the stratosphere. They looked down on a world they had seemingly conquered. For a brief, shining moment in history, the XB-70 was invincible. The ultimate weapon, the perfect deterrent, America's absolute, unchallengeable shield. The very existence of the Valkyrie was a checkmate in the Cold War's deadly chess game. Or so they thought, but the world does not stand still. The future waits for no machine, no matter how magnificent, while the Valkyrie was being perfected in the clear, empty desert skies. The enemy was also innovating, driven by that same Cold War paranoia. In the cold, secret laboratories of the Soviet Union, their engineers, were not idle. They understood they could not build a better Valkyrie. Not yet. So they focused on building something to kill it. A new kind of weapon, brutally effective in its simplicity. One that didn't need a pilot. One that didn't need to return home. The S-75 Divina. Known to NATO as the SA-2 Guideline, the Surface Doer. Missile, the SAM. It was a telephone pole of high explosives and rocket fuel that could reach the heavens in seconds, guided by ground-based radar. The same weapon that had, to the world's utter shock, brought down Francis Gary Powers' Utah spy plane in 1960. That single event shattered the illusion of high-altitude invincibility. Suddenly, flying high was no longer safe. Altitude was no longer a sanctuary. It was a death sentence. The Valkyrie's very strength, its incredible altitude, its untouchable domain, became its greatest, most fatal vulnerability. And then came the final, silent, decisive blow, a weapon that changed the very nature of global warfare, rendering the Valkyrie's mission profile obsolete overnight. The intercontinental ballistic missile, the ICBM rockets that could arc through the vacuum of space, beyond the reach of any conceivable defense. Rockets that could cross the globe in 30 minutes, delivering a payload of unimaginable destruction. Why risk a billion-dollar plane and its highly trained crew on a 10-hour flight into the most defended airspace on Earth? When a missile could do the job faster, cheaper, and with absolute, terrifying certainty. The debate raged in the Pentagon. Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, a man of numbers and cold, unsentimental logic, saw the writing on the wall. The age of the manned strategic bomber was ending. The age of the missile had begun. The XB-70 Valkyrie was a masterpiece of aeronautical engineering, but it was a knight's shining armor in an era of gunpowder, a perfectly crafted sword in a world of guided missiles, a king without a kingdom. The future had defeated it. Before it was even born. What would you do if the masterpiece you poured your soul into became useless overnight? A relic before its time? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The program was officially, unceremoniously cancelled. The dream of a fleet of white angels patrolling the skies, wash, over, of the planned fleet. Only 2 prototypes were ever completed, Air Vehicle 1 and Air Vehicle 2. Their new mission was no longer strategic bombing. It was research, data collection for NASA and the Air Force, studying the effects of long-duration high-speed flight. They were demoted, relics of a bygone strategy, museum pieces that could still fly. The gods of the sky were now laboratory specimens, their talons clipped, their purpose erased, pushed to the sidelines of history. But the Valkyrie had one last, tragic and unforgettable act to play. A final, horrifying scene in its epic saga. June 8, 1966. A crystal-clear morning over the Mojave Desert. The sky was a canvas of deep, endless blue, a perfect day for flying. It was supposed to be a day of triumph, of corporate pride, a promotional photo shoot for General Electric, the makers of the Valkyrie's mighty engines, a parade of power. The majestic XB-70, Air Vehicle 2, was the centerpiece. It flew in a tight, precise formation with 4 smaller jets, all powered by GE engines. An F-4 Phantom, an F-5, Freedom Fighter, AT-38, Talon, and a Lockheed F-104 Starfighter, piloted by Joseph Joe Walker, one of NASA's most respected and experienced chief test pilots. A choreographed dance of power and grace, the planes carving arcs against the sky for the cameras in a nearby chase plane. For a moment, it was a glorious glimpse of what could have been, a vision of American air superiority, frozen in time. Then, disaster. In a horrifying instant, the F-104, flying on the Valkyrie's right wing, drifted too close. It was caught in the powerful, invisible vortex, spinning off the tip of the giant bomber's folded wing. The smaller jet, caught in a swirling trap of violent air, was flipped, sucked in as if by an unseen hand. It rolled violently, inverted, and smashed directly into the back of the Valkyrie. The sound was a sickening, metallic shear. a sound that should not exist in the open sky. The starfighter's T-tail sliced clean through the bomber's twin vertical stabilizers. The F-104, mortally wounded, exploded into a ball of orange and black fire, disintegrating instantly. Joe Walker was gone. Aboard the Valkyrie, pilot Al White and co-pilot Major Carl Kraus felt a sudden, violent jolt. They didn't know what had happened. A mid-air collision seemed impossible. For 16 agonizing seconds that felt like an eternity, the great white giant flew straight and level, as if nothing was wrong, as if it was trying to shrug off its fatal wound. Then, with its stability gone, its tail it began to yaw. It entered a flat, gentle, unstoppable spin. It fell from the sky, not in a fiery plunge, but like a dying leaf, a silent, almost graceful descent into utter oblivion. Inside, the pilots fought for control that was no longer there. Al White managed to eject his advanced escape capsule, rocketing away from the doomed aircraft just in time. He survived, though seriously injured. Major Cross, caught by the intense and disorienting G-forces of the spin, was unable to escape. He went down with his ship, the perfect weapon, the God Machine, defeated not by an enemy missile in the cold skies over Siberia, not in a blaze of wartime glory, but by a moment of tragic, senseless irony. During a marketing event, a photo shoot. It was a funeral pyre in the California sky, a heartbreaking end to a magnificent dream. Today, only one Valkyrie remains. Ship number 1. The original, it made its final flight on February 4th, 1969. To its final resting place, the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. It sits there now, in a vast hangar, surrounded by other legends of the sky. A silent, white ghost, a billion-dollar monument to a war that was never fought. It is a testament to the boundless reach of human ingenuity, to our ability to dream and build the impossible. And it is a somber, chilling reminder that even the most perfect, most powerful creations can be rendered obsolete by the relentless, unforgiving march of time. It never dropped a single bomb. It never saw a moment of combat. It never fulfilled the terrifying destiny for which it was created. But the XB-70 Valkyrie tells one of the most powerful, most profound stories in the history of aviation. The story of a magnificent failure. The story of the beautiful, deadly ghost that haunts the skies of the Cold War. A dream of ultimate power, vanquished not by an enemy, but by the dawn of a new age. If this story made you think, if it made you feel the weight of history, imagine what comes next. Subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. Your journey into the forgotten chapters of technology has only just begun. And check out this other incredible story waiting for you right here.